Welcome to the second episode of Devil's Debate. I'm Fabian Ardaya, and joining me today, once again, is Dominic Cotroneo. We have a great show for you here today. And our first topic, getting right into it, the ASU men's basketball head coaching search. Jeff Capel is still the front runner, but I don't think you're sold, Dom.
I'm really not, just because this is a big weekend coming up here for Duke.
Yeah.
It would make sense for him to leave after a national championship. I don't know. You know, you see that happen a lot. You get the pinnacle, you get something materialized that you can actually say, we won a national championship with this team, I'm satisfied, I want to see what I can do now. I think best case scenario is if Duke wins national championship, which I don't see happening, because that gives him the incentive to leave and maybe start anew again, try to find it with like what he did with Virginia Commonwealth and with OU.
Yeah, it's common for assistant coaches to leave championship teams.
Exactly. So, but I think if they lose in this first round of Michigan State, and Tom Izzo, I mean,
Izzo. But Final Four is always with Tom Izzo.
Exactly, but Capel is definitely the front runner.
Yes.
I just don't know. Everyone's kind of open and shut on this. I don't think it's going to be that easy, and it's going to take some serious change from Ray Anderson, which he's not afraid to do.
Yeah. Well, some of the other candidates, you see Steve Lavin mutually parted ways with St. John's.
Yeah.
That sort of opens that door for ASU.
I don't think that's going to happen either.
I don't like that move. I really don't. But then I'm just looking at the other coaches out there. Pastner his name came up early, but nobody's really talking about him anymore. Bobby Hurley said that he wants to go back to Buffalo. And really...
Yeah, his heart is there. So
yeah, his heart's in Buffalo.
When hearts are involved, you're out.
And then once Rick Barnes was let go from Texas, people automatically jumped to the conclusion maybe Rick Barnes can come here. But no, he immediately went to Tennessee. Yeah. So I don't know who the next head coach is. Really, it's Jeff Capel's job, really, if he wants it. And he said that he won't take a job at ASU unless he comes here and visits first. I don't know if that visit happens. We'll see. It's Michael Crow's guy. He's Jerry Colangelo's guy. But is he Ray Anderson's guy?
We'll find out, I guess. And also, as long as it's not Bruce Pearl, that's all I'm worried about. So now Connor McNougal, though, he's got a little bit of a decision on his hands. At first, when the coaching change was made, that he said he's going to transfer. Now he's got shoulder surgery coming up too. Now he's saying he's going to stay and wait for the new coach. Where's his head right now? He's a local kid.
It's been a rough season for Connor McDougal. He got suspended for a time last year for violation of team rules. He's a guy who has shown a lot of promise at the high school level, and a lot is expected of him at the college level. He wasn't expected to play much this year because Eric Jacobson and Savon Goodman are both coming back to front that front court, but I don't know what his future's at. He transferred in high school from Desert Vista. He ended up at Corona del Sol where he won titles, and to go from that to a program that hasn't been winning as much, it might be trying for him, and maybe he didn't want to go. I mean, he didn't want to stick around if Herb Sendek wasn't going to stick around.
Well, he's a 6'8" center, according to the roster. 6'8", that's just not going to cut it in the Pac-12, quite frankly. So if he's going to have to adapt here when the new coach comes in, because he's not going to stay as a center, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's going to have to transfer to that power forward role, and he's going to have to really wait behind Savon Goodman, who blossomed down the stretch.
There's no reason for him to believe that he's going to get time over Savon Goodman, except for giving Goodman a break or if he gets into foul trouble.
Yeah, Goodman really dominated down the stretch. He was probably ASU's arguably best player in the NIT, and I don't know what that role is for McDougal, and I don't know where he goes if he transfers.
Exactly. Who's going to want a kid that's had very minimal minutes, has had injury problems? I think right now his best bet is to stay at home and tough it out. You look at what Jacobson does, what he did ahead of him. Jacobson is going to stay all 4 years, even though he was behind Baczynski. A lot of guys, you don't see that anymore. Guys leaving, guys going back and forth.
Jacobson, another local guy out of Hamilton High School.
Exactly. So having that, kind of presence, that's where maybe Jacobson comes in and takes charge in that role.
Yeah. And now let's go to football. Let's go to a former Sun Devil who's getting ready for the NFL draft. Jalen Strong made a visit with the Baltimore Ravens on Monday, and lots of projections. Who knows where he's going to go? I think he's a first-round pick, a lock first-round pick, but I don't think he's a lock. I think he should be a first-round pick.
Yeah, he should. I don't think he's a lock.
We'll see about that. But right now he's slated towards late first round. Last mock draft I saw actually had him going to the Ravens. I think that's a great fit for him because they let Torrey Smith go. They let Jacoby Jones go. He's a great fit for that scheme, especially as a deep threat for Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco can throw the deep ball
because he's an elite quarterback, right?
He's elite at throwing the ball deep late in situations in December.
Well, look, Jalen, it's been kind of funny. You don't see this every day when they have the opportunity, a hometown guy who's professed his love for the Eagles, and the Eagles have been open that they are trying to court Jalen Strong. And I'm sure if that falls in Chip Kelly's lap, I don't know if Strong is fast enough to fit that system. Yeah, he ran a 4.44, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 4.44.40, which actually was a lot faster than a lot of people thought it would be.
He was only 0.02 of a second behind Amari Cooper. But I don't know if he's got, maybe he has the reps and the endurance to fit in that Chip Kelly fast-paced Eagles system. But at the same time, if he wants to go there, if they want him there too, if he's available that far down on the board, it would have to be in the second round because the Eagles aren't going to take him in their pick in the teens. And I think
probably not.
If he's available in the second round, which I think he will be, I think the Eagles take him there.
I think the Eagles have a trade in the works. I think a lot of people have suspected they have a trade in the works. And I think
they're getting Mariota.
Yeah, with their pick after that, I think Jalen Strong is a good fit for them. Jeremy Maclin just left. He's a similar type player to Jeremy Maclin, maybe even more physical than Jeremy Maclin was. I don't know. I like that fit. There's a lot of teams that could fit. Well, I could also see the Seahawks and the Patriots being really good fits for Jalen Strong.
So we'll stay here on the football topic. Spring football is in full swing. We're also coming down here on the spring game next week. But you were out there at practice. What have you been seeing? What's kind of the mood? A lot of flame helmets now. All of a sudden.
A lot of flame helmets. Chad Graham said the flame helmets signify people that he thinks he can win a Pac-12 championship with. And it looks like he's got a team that he thinks he can win a Pac-12 championship with. You see guys like Mike Bercovici becoming the first offensive player to wear the Pat Tillman jersey. He gets joined by Jordan Simone and Lloyd Carrington for 2 straight practices now. They look great. But the funniest guy, the guy who's making a surprise in this spring practice and showed up really on Saturday, Jacob Brimhall, a guy who played some on special teams last year, but wasn't really expected to do much. He's a little bit considered to be a little bit undersized for his position. He's only 5'6".
Don't hang on the short guys.
Hey, don't hang on the short guys.
That's why we're talking about sports, or we don't play them anymore. But anyway,
he's proving that that short tag may be something that is a little overrated. Because I talked to Bo Graham, running backs coach today. He fully expects Jacob Brimhall to be involved. If you have an offense like that where you run 2 running back systems all the time, if you carry 4 or 5 guys who are capable of running the football, it'll become in handy. You have guys like Kalen Ballage, Mario Richard.
Who are those guys?
They
never heard of them.
Had a big game last time we saw them. And then Deshaun Hayes, a.k.a. Gump. Yeah, Gump is great. And then Jacob Brimhall and Nick Ralston, the early enrollee, they've all been impressive in this spring practice.
I think that depth at the running back position is a great problem to have. Because you look at it, it's such a position that gets beat up so much, and with ASU running 80 or so plays every game, and they're going to still ask Bercovici to throw 40 passes or something like that, you're still giving the ball on the ground 40 times. And it's not going to be DJ Foster anymore, obviously, who took the bulk of those out of the backfield last year. Ballage has shown in practice he can catch the ball on those little wheel routes on the outside. Richard is known as the power runner. He can get through the tackles and everything, but you have these kind of weapons on the side that can make you juke, get around, slip in and out of tackles because they're so small. It comes in handy in the long run.
You saw this last year. You saw Kyle Middlebrooks, DeAndre Lewis, DJ Foster, Kalen Ballage, and Demario Richard all receive significant carries last year. And I expect that fully the same thing next year. And now let's go onto the recruiting trail. I think ASU landed a very big commit yesterday. Their second commit in the class of 2016, and it's a local guy out of Peoria Centennial, offensive lineman Marshall Nathy, and I think it was his first offer, and right after they offered him, he committed. He's a guy who I really like for this ASU team.
He's only considered a 3-star right now, but I think that you look at, you're not going to find Westermans all the time in your backyard where they go Auburn, but then end up going back home. I think a 3-star is going to be good because really, you got to groom him up. He's not going to be starting immediately. This offensive line is going to be young this year now, all of a sudden. And then next year, they'll really be the year that they were last year. Jameel Douglas. We haven't really talked about him in the draft. We should, maybe next time we'll talk about him.
Jameel Douglas. He's going to make some name.
He'll make a name for himself, exactly. But I think that getting an offensive line is key. But now also the big void that from this previous signing class left was the wide receiver position. You only get 1 wide receiver out of that. And now the UCLA wide receiver, Devin Lewson, he's announced that he is leaving UCLA and is going to try to graduate transfer here to ASU. That's huge.
I really like that, especially since Cam Smith went down last week for the season, and Devin Lucian's a guy who fits really most of that same skill set. He's a guy who's a burner, who can be a real big deep threat, but he actually has a bit more size than Cam Smith has, and he has experience of working with a quarterback with a big arm because he's been playing with Brett Hundley the last 3 years.
Exactly.
So I really like it if he came here to ASU. He's a great guy for this system, I think, and with the wide receivers that we have coming back, Devin Lucien would be a perfect fit. I think that he would immediately step in to be that number 2 receiver behind DJ Foster.
Exactly. Now we shift gears. We talked about this last week's show. We'll touch on it briefly here, but ASU women's basketball, they lose in the Sweet 16 to number 2 ranked Florida State, but it was a nail-biter.
Yeah, Katie Hempen.
She catches fire in every other game, it seems like.
Yeah, man.
Literally every other game.
She kept him in that game, and it really could have gone either way. That last possession promised Pisa Mukamara, because Promise Mukamara had fouled out.
Yep.
Pisa Mukamara with 5.2 seconds to go. Just that last turnover, and I think that was the symbol of that game. Just so many turnovers on both sides, but especially ASU late, and that was really the deciding factor.
Yeah, and only one senior on that team, too, and it's Promise. Yes, you'll miss Promise, but still. You've got Peace right behind her. You've got Alicia Davis still running the offense. It's going to be a lot of fun next year.
Yeah, Charlie Turner-Thorne's a great coach. I think she should be the ASU men's basketball coach.
Who knows? Pretty soon.
And now back onto both the football field and the diamond, because Brandon McGee, he's been making national news. It's been sort of
a great Twitter follow, by the way.
He is. And it's been well known that he's played both sports, both in college, and he's trying to do it at the professional level now. He played both for ASU football and at baseball, and just this past week he got cut from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and his next stop, Red Sox camp for spring training. So, I don't know. Is the two-sport thing going to keep going for him?
It just doesn't happen anymore. It's not that easy. It's not like Bo Jackson was a freak of nature.
Oh, yeah.
Flat-out freak of nature. Deion Sanders, a freak of nature. McGee is not a freak of nature. He's a great athlete, but he's not one of those guys where you know that this guy can help your team. It's not, whereas he's a scout guy. He can maybe get a couple at bats here or there. He can maybe make some plays like as a second string or a third string, but he's not the starting type that you'd expect. It's a long road for him ahead. If he wants to get back into football, it'll be tough. I think his best bet is to stick with baseball right now, because the fact that the Red Sox are sticking with him through all of this, that says volumes about his baseball play. He should stay with the Red Sox and stay on the diamond.
Yeah, I agree. But his ASU baseball career wasn't really eye-popping numbers, but you saw the athleticism. I think that's the type of guy that a lot of Major League Baseball GMs are looking at, is just these athletic guys who they can try to mold into stars.
It's the change in the sports and the change in the shift of the paradigm there. But now we switch back over, staying on the football field now. It's an odd schedule this year for the spring football game. A Friday night, prime time. Every spring football game also is televised on Pac-12 Network, so you don't have to worry about missing it this year.
Yeah.
It's on the networks on a Friday night. It's a great weekend, too, because the next 3 days, ASU baseball plays U of A. Do you think it helps to do it on a Friday night? Do you think you'll get more fan interest on a Friday night?
I think it's a symbol of the times of how far Coach Graham has brought this ASU program. They're now a prime-time program that people want to see. I think you can make the case that ASU has turned itself into an elite program the last 3 years under Graham. Back-to-back 10-win seasons, staying ranked almost the entire time, sort of proves that. And the recruiting class he's been able to bring in there, but he's bringing that championship mentality. I think sort of molding that also to everything they do. They have TV timeouts at spring practice.
That's great. I think a lot of teams do that. That's a sign of being adapted to the times. But I think the thing that will really solidify if this is a good idea to do it in prime time on a Friday night. Remember last year's spring game?
Oh,
a huge crowd, a massive crowd.
A lot of people.
It was the biggest crowd ever for a spring game, if I'm not mistaken.
And
if you can get more on a Friday night where there's really not much else going on in town, that shows that it's working. Everyone's buying in. The casual fans are even coming out. The ones that aren't the diehard, maybe they'll buy a partial season ticket plan, but here they are at spring.
I don't doubt that there'll be more people on a Friday night, mostly because it's also just a night spring game. Because last year, I feel bad. It was metal bleachers and almost 90-degree weather. I think it was rough out there. But another weird thing about the spring schedule is there's actually 2 spring practices after the spring game.
Yeah,
it's a little different this year.
It's still weird.
And now let's go back onto the diamond. ASU baseball. Okay, we expect him to do well against Stanford, but it was a couple of just big names that pop out from that series. Chris Beal, first of all, because of the walk-off, the 4th walk-off this season for ASU.
I've been there for all 4 of them, too, so I'm just saying.
Humble brag. And then Brian Servin on Sunday. Oh, my gosh.
He went unconscious. He just was seeing the ball so well. He was the DH on Sunday afternoon, too, and he said after the game that it helped me kind of focus. It helped me kind of, just worry about the hitting. Granted, it's Brett Lillick, so it's not that hard of a pitching staff to manage. He had Serbo do that, who also filled that role very well. But 5 for 5, also batting cleanup, if I'm not mistaken, too. That's huge. And both home runs late in the game that really put it away. against Stanford. This team is really talented. They're still number 6 in the D1 baseball poll. 12. They're pretty much in the top 12 in every poll, which is exactly where you want to be this time of year. You're hosting a regional. You've solidified yourself that you're hosting a regional. If you can win some marquee series that aren't until much later in the year, then you can put yourself in the super regional talk.
Yeah, I really think that ASU has primed itself well for the postseason. And then you mentioned Brett Lillick. You know, he started out with 6 no-hit innings that game. He was no slouch in this series either. I think you're starting to see this ASU baseball team. You saw them stumble a little bit, have a couple of close wins that maybe they shouldn't have had.
Right.
They're 93 and one-run games, by the way.
That's
but now
huge.
you're starting to see this team sort of gel together and actually just dominate teams like they did Sunday against Stanford, and it's very, very promising.
Well, you see over there on the column that we are at our last topic, and I'm sure you maybe fast-forwarded to this or whatever. Sean Miller. We all know what this is. The tweet.
Sean
Put it up
Miller.
here on the screen for you. Sean Miller's tweet. Go cheer for ASU. That was probably the most copied, modified tweet for Sean Miller. You know how you can modify a tweet and say, go cheer for ASU. But do you think this makes sense for him to come out and attack the fans like this?
I honestly, even just coming as an ASU student, I like that. Mm-hmm. I like that from a basketball coach. I like a little bit of fire in that. I think the ASU fans that really are taking this as offensive are overblowing it a bit. I think by saying it's an insult to go cheer for ASU, that's sort of degrading Arizona State University instead of recognizing, hey, U of A's had a great program, and really that was Sean Miller, just more of a message to his fans rather than a dig at ASU.
Well, I think that we talked about a certain head coach here at ASU that tweets a lot last week.
Yeah,
Tracy Smith.
It's fun.
All I've got to say about the tweet for Sean Miller, the thumbs up for Tracy Smith. That's my most used emoji now, too. That's also going to do it for us here in the second episode of Devil's Debate. We hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for everything on ASURivals.com. Fabian Ardaya, I'm Dominic Cotroneo. We'll see you next week.
See you.